And we are live. Happy Wealthy Wednesday, which is my most favorite day of the week. Well, today I am super fired up. My name is Leah Garcia, and I'm a financial professional. And my intention is to bring you knowledge and wisdom about your wealth. And today we're going to explore what is the impact of taxes on your wealth. So, if you are a high net worth individual, or you would like to be a high net worth individual, or you know somebody who's a high net worth individual, this is going to be one for the books. This is one you're going to refer back to many, many times because we're going to be talking about strategies, advanced tax strategies on how to properly mitigate, eliminate, and defer those capital gains taxes. So, by the way, I am a financial professional. I am not an attorney. I am not a tax professional. So, this is not tax or legal advice. Again, these are advanced strategies which require advanced and knowledgeable individuals to bring these strategies to you. I talk about the four pillar professionals you need to have on your team. And in this situation, it is absolutely vital that you have that, which is going to be your CPA or tax professional, your tax attorney, because when is the worst time to look for a tax attorney? Is, by the way, when you need one. Your estate planning attorney, your licensed life and health insurance agent. Now, while wealth management can do a lot of great things for you, there's certain licenses, training, and certification that a proper life and health insurance agent can do that a traditional wealth management cannot access to that for you. So again, when it comes to advanced planning, this is not a DIY project. Please don't grab some word tracks from here and think you're going to try to Google and figure this out yourself. Now, with that being said, you want to do some research and have an idea, but seek out the professionals that really have the knowledge and experience and the products and all the specialists to bring this all together for you. So, with that little disclaimer, without further ado, I'd love to bring you one of my friends, one of my trusted resources. She is a capital gains tax strategist because it's really about a strategy. It's not a one size fits all solution. Please give it up for the amazing Miss Ruth Benjamin. And
Thank
she's
you,
super
Leah.
humble, so I know she's so embarrassed. Look at her, she's blushing
I'm
already.
red. So thank you, Leah.
Go ahead and introduce yourself, Miss Ruth.
Yes, well, I'm Ruth Benjamin, and I have been in the 1031 exchange world for 30 years. So I've run into a lot of situations when people, they own real estate and they get tired of owning real estate. But for 30 years, I helped them accomplish 1031 exchanges. I can still do that today. But about 10 years ago, I realized that 1031 exchange was not always the best strategy for each client. So then I started listening to the other products that were coming into my realm, and I started looking at them and evaluating them. And the ones that I liked, I would go ask the tax attorneys that I'm connected to and the CPAs that I'm connected to find out if they were good ones to be talking about. So I spent the last 10 years really doing a lot of homework, and I'm always doing homework. I have a good 5 strategies now, but there's 3 or 4 more coming around the corner that I'm learning to write, webinars, different presentations to be able to get this information out to everybody, because we're not all in the same boat like Trump that has a whole entire team and can afford to pay all these attorneys and people to do this work for them. So my goal is to get all that information out to everybody, so you know that you have the same resources as everybody else does, and you can make your wealth grow faster when you're not paying all of it to Uncle Sam.
That's right, because it's not just about how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep and put in your pocket and transfer, right? Transfer to your loved ones. And so I love that introduction. And by the way, remember, everything I'm bringing to you is legal, moral, and ethical. We are never going to flirt with the gray areas. We're never going to talk about anything that is a little bit questionable. These are vetted, tried and true strategies that have been working for many generations. So while some of this may be new information for you, again, there's all the legal backing. And my disclaimer here is I'm not endorsing or recommending this to anyone. I'm simply providing you some information, and then you determine what is best for you. Seek out the professionals who have the expertise, the training, and knowledge for that. So I love that you said that. And one of the things that I love about just working with you, Ruth, is that you truly are a woman of integrity. And I really felt that from the very first conversation that we had, because I came to you with the situation and you said, well, this may be not a good fit for this and that reason. We're never trying to, I don't ever get the idea that you're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. You're truly looking for what is the best solution for the client long term. Mm-hmm. Because if we just simply want to not pay taxes, there's an easy fix to that. Just don't do it, right?
You're right.
Are we simply kicking the can down the road? Are we simply creating another mess or nightmare for our family, for our heirs? This is really about advanced planning, advanced strategies, and creating wealth, not just for you, but also for generations. And so from the first conversation, I really got from you that was really your mission. Because I believe my mentor taught me that the truth is the highest vibration. And so when we hear truth, that's why people resonate with us. That's why maybe we don't understand everything, but we understand that they understand everything, and they're vibrating at that same level. So that's my little bit about you, for sure.
Every time we get introduced to a new client, my goal is to find out what do they have and what do they want to have. So if they're selling a property or they're selling a business, what's the reason for the sale? Do they need the money to live on? Do they need the money or they want to get rid of the business simply because they're burned out and they just don't want to do this anymore? They don't necessarily need the money from the sale, but they don't want to do the work anymore. So there's different strategies depending on the client's goals.
I love that, because Ruth and her team, they're not product peddlers. They're not going around trying to tell everybody and sell this particular product. They're really looking at holistically, proactively. And what I mean by that is they're not just looking at mitigating or eliminating or deferring the taxes, but the reasons why. What are you trying to achieve long term? And how is this going to impact your heirs? How is this going to impact your generational and multi-generational wealth? So that was the first thing that really struck me about you, Ruth. And as I've gotten to know you more and more, it's absolutely so true, because that's exactly what you asked me. Well, what do they want to do? Why are they doing this? Maybe this is not the right fit for them. So I will tell you what really piqued my interest about advanced tax planning is because I have a client who's been with me for many years. Wonderful family. I absolutely adore him and his family. Wonderful people. And his father was so insightful. His father bought himself a property every year for his birthday in the Silicon Valley, Sunnyvale area, which we all know is it exploded over the past few years, but he just had this wherewithal, and that's what he did every year. And so I think he accumulated 20, 30 properties, I don't know, but a mass real estate fortune. And when he transferred this wealth, although he had some trust and some planning in place, when he transferred this wealth, the family, in order to address all of the taxes that were involved with that, they had to start selling off real estate at a fire sale, let's say, because those taxes are due within 9 months, right, when someone passes away. And he wrote a check to Uncle Sam for over $5.3 million. Let me say that again. He wrote a check to Uncle Sam for over $5 million.
I would be crying if I was writing a check like that.
He said that he was quivering. He was on the verge, or maybe he was experiencing tears. He's a burly man, so maybe he didn't want to admit that to me. And maybe there was nothing that could be done. But when he asked his CPA, when he asked his financial professionals, they told him, just write the check. Just write the check. You have it. You can afford it. Just sell off this house, sell off that house, liquidate that account, and write that check. And while that may have been the only answer, it probably would have been worth a conversation with somebody like Ruth Benjamin, who has the team, has the expertise, has the knowledge to really explore the options that could have potentially saved his family thousands and millions of dollars. Because listen, we're all law abiding Americans. We love our country and we don't mind paying our fair share of taxes.
That's
But
the key, fair share.
we don't want to overpay our fair share. So, Ruth, give us an example of, tell us an example of somebody that you've helped recently.
Well, one of the people that I'm really excited about was a gentleman that had Apple stock. He had $10 million worth of Apple stock. Now, stock is very hard to get out of, especially when you buy the stock in your own name. Well, we have tools to change that up to a certain point. I mean, it would take us a whole hours to explain exactly how it works. But this man was going to pay over $3 million in taxes when he sells that Apple stock. So we were able to get the tax bill down to $37,000. So those are the type of tools.
Wait a minute. Slow down a little bit. Let's rewind that. So his tax liability on $10 million in stock, what was his exposure, his initial exposure?
$3,710,000.
Nearly $4 million in taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So that means if he would have simply liquidated that stock, put it in his pocket, he would have wrote a check for $3.7 million to Uncle Sam.
Yes.
And your team and your expertise, you folks were able to bring that down to how much?
$37,100.
Wow. Somebody's got to say wow. That's a wow. That deserves a wow right there. So needless to say, he is very, very happy. He is very, very excited. And whatever was the investment to have you implement those strategies was well worth its weight in salt. For sure. Definitely. So go on. I'm sorry. I interrupted your story. Please, but
that's kind of the basics on the stocks. Typically, I help most people with 1031 exchanges just because that's a household name. Now, when I started back in the 80s, it wasn't a household name. People were questioning it. Are you sure it works? Exchanges have been done since 1926, and it wasn't until 1979 that we actually got the code 1031. So then it started to become a household name. But there's a lot of people out there that don't want to own properties anymore. They're tired of tenants and toilets and everything that comes along with property management. And so we have what's called a liquid 1031. So that would allow you to sell your investment property and acquire an interest in a TIC, which qualifies as like kind. 2 weeks after you own the TIC, you can pull 93.3% of your cash out of the transaction with no mortgage payment. Think of it as like a reverse mortgage for investment property. And 30 years from now, the TIC owner will come to you and say, do you want to keep your TIC interest? Because they are developing it. It would be worth keeping if you wanted to. Or you can simply give it up and that extinguishes the loan and you pay your tax bill. So it's as simple as that. And it's right underneath the 1031 code. So, you just have to ask, and you can work with any accommodator with this because you just identify the TIC product. So that's kind of one of the simple basic ones.
You're so adorable. It's as simple as that. Okay. It's because you know what you're doing, right? It's a little Greek and Martian to some of us. So unpack this really quickly. A 1031 exchange is when we're exchanging real estate, like for like. Yes? Okay. Basically.
Yes.
And then there are different ways to do that exchange. One of them is an option to do a TIC TIC, is that what you're saying?
TIC is tenant in common, and that
Tenant in common.
qualifies as a like-kind replacement property.
Tenant in common.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, do they have to, this brings to my mind, I don't know. It sounds like that would mean we have multiple people in this property. Is that what you're alluding to?
Yeah, the tick product typically has 35 members in the tick, and then
Okay.
they create new ticks, as it depends on how many people are interested in it. But you do own land that's in Utah. You do own an interest in land, and when you use this strategy, you do own something. And so when you complete it, just like if you were doing a normal 1031 exchange and you bought a replacement property, and then 2 weeks after you bought the property, you do a refinance and pull cash out. Completely legal. You don't even report the refinance. But the difference between doing that, and doing what I'm talking about is if you buy a piece of property and do a refinance, you got to make mortgage payments, right? This strategy has no payments for 30 years. So it's accruing interest, but it's just like a reverse mortgage. It's accruing the interest. And if you want to keep the property 30 years from now, you pay back the loan with the interest. If you don't, you give back the tick interest and they extinguish the loan and you pay your tax bill.
Wow. So I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on this, but maybe you could give us number one, what is the minimum gain someone needs to have? And give us a story of someone who's used this strategy, if you could.
Yes. So I have a client that was tired of owning real estate, and he used another strategy that we have, which is called tax deferred cash out. But the IRS is looking at that one right now. So we don't know if it's good or bad. The IRS is kind of just on hold. They were going to have a hearing about it, but nothing happened. So I suggested the liquid 1031 for him. So he just does not want to, when he sells this it's like an office building. When he sells it, he wants to make a replacement, but he doesn't want to buy real estate. He wants to invest the money into other products, a little bit of crypto, just different things that are not like kind in a 1031 exchange. So if you use the liquid 1031, it will provide you the cash to buy what he wanted. So he went ahead and went through with that product so he could buy the products that he wanted, the end result, the whole thing of what do you have and what do you want. So there's different strategies depending on your goals.
So, what this brings to mind is that a lot of people that I come into contact with are talking about Bitcoin, also gold, silver.
Mm-hmm.
So, it could be used in those kinds of situations. Yes?
Yes, absolutely. The money that you get out of the refinance can be used in any way that you need it.
Wow. Wow. And what is the minimum gain exposure? So, if somebody's just going to, have minimal, I'm
Yeah.
sure that, yeah, what are the
Well,
requirements?
for the liquid 1031, they do like to have a sales price of $1 million, but I have gotten approved about 600,000. And if you have multiple properties, think about doing the 1031, selling the properties, lumping it together, and going into the TIC product. So there's a lot of different things we can do. It doesn't have to be one property. You can combine properties.
Yeah, I love that because that was my next question. Can we combine properties? I have clients who have real estate. We're here in California, folks. A starter home in Monterey is $1 million. Okay. It's there. You're going to have to put probably 2 or 3 or $500,000 into it for that property. And in San Jose Bay Area, it's probably the same. But what if you have real estate in other states that maybe the average home price is 100,000? Maybe they bought it for 10, 20,000 and now it's worth 100, 2, 300,000. So they could
Mhm.
combine those
Combine.
assets to be able to
Yes.
qualify.
Right. And you'd have to do it within the 6-month allowed period of the exchange, but you can absolutely combine properties to get to your goals. So we
That's
just have to
right.
talk about it and get that set up.
Yeah, that's why I love working with you because you're really the mastermind that puts it all together. It really requires somebody and that truly has your best interest at heart. That's the
Mhm.
whole thing. Because if somebody's just selling a product, they're just looking at trying to fit your size 11 foot into a size 9 shoe. How can we make it fit? And there's some ways we can shoehorn it and, the Cinderella thing and push it in there and make it work and make it fit. But is it actually going to work long term?
Mhm.
And that's where the rubber meets the road to me. So I love that story.
Well, I heard an analogy the other day and it made a lot of sense.
Yeah,
If you're going to sit down and play Monopoly and you don't know the rules, how are you
right.
going to win? So you need to take the time to learn the rules, and I can teach the rules, and you can decide which way you want to go with it.
That is so, so true. So I'll tell you this quick little story. My daughter, when she was 3, she loved to play Hi-Ho Cherry-O. That little game where you
Yeah.
spin it and you pull the little apples off the apple tree. And every time we played, she always won. Not because I didn't try to win, but because every time we played the game, Ruth, she changed the rules. Oh no, if you land on the bird, that actually means you give me your apples or I take your apples and all these different things. So I was playing a game that I could never win because I didn't know the rules of the game. And it's
Right.
truly just about knowing and understanding the rules of the game, which, by the way, the rules are there for us.
They are.
However, the tax code is over 83,000 pages long. There is no one individual on this earth who knows every single nuance, every single tax code, and how they can be work and ebb and flow together. So that's a great analogy. I love that. So give us another one of your favorite stories, if you could.
Yeah, the next product that I absolutely love is our trust product. And it's a non-grantor complex dynasty type trust. And there's a lot of people out on the internet right now selling these supposedly same type of trust that says you can defer tax in perpetuity. That is 100% false.
Right.
The trust can give you ironclad asset protection. This ironclad asset protection is the best you can do in the United States without going offshore. In fact, we had a client in the state of Maryland that the state of Maryland sued this client and they won a $100,000 judgment against our client. Well, our client had the trust and went to court 3 times over an 8-year period in the state of Maryland, never won. To this day, he still owes Maryland that money, but he owns 56 doors of real estate, 2 businesses, and he's not worried about paying Maryland that 100,000, right? I'm sure by this time it's probably collected a lot of interest on top of it. He should just take care of it, but he doesn't have to worry about it because he has the asset protection.
Right.
We had one client who rented out his home.
Really quick, I don't want to interrupt you, but let's unpack that a little bit because
Okay.
Lisa for you is just so common. You can just like spout it off and then just go on the way. Us mere mortals, we need a moment to kind of digest this. So you said there's no such thing as deferring tax into perpetuity. So
No,
in other
simply
words,
using the trust, it does not work.
there's a limit to how long we can defer those taxes. And really what I think about, because I see these things too, is that it's not about having a one single strategy that does everything, that's all encompassing everything for you. It's really about creating layers of protection, multiple layers, maybe multiple trusts, maybe implementing some LLC, some advanced planning that really creates that estate plan. But there's no such thing into perpetuity. So in other words, that tax is going to come due. And you don't want to simply kick the can down the road to your heirs, your beneficiaries, and now they have this enormous tax bill. So I
Right.
feel like that's the end where people it's kind of a blind spot. They don't understand that those are when we can start using life insurance policies, permanent life insurance policies. Folks, these strategies are not intended to use term insurance. Although I help a lot of families with term life insurance, it's wonderful, it's affordable, it does a lot of great things, living benefits and stuff. However, to really have the true strategy in place, it does require some form or fashion of permanent life insurance that can really be that exit planning for this family. So
Yeah,
I just
life
wanted to
insurance is
slow
an
you down a little
amazing
bit.
tool. Life insurance is something that most of our clients use because it allows you to use the tax strategies. Your family benefits from everything that you built, and the life insurance takes care of the tax bill. So it's a really amazing tool.
I love that. Okay, I'm so sorry. I interrupt you again. Go ahead. You're on a roll. Keep
Well,
going.
I
We
don't
want to hear
remember
more.
where I was at. We were talking about the trusts having the ironclad asset protection, and there's a lot of frivolous lawsuits out there. I am now paying attention to the frivolous lawsuits that I read and I see on the news. Everybody can get sued. You can get sued because your neighbor doesn't like the color that you painted your door, right? Or somebody trips over your yard, you can get sued. Now, with these trust products, you can get sued, but it's the whole concept of you don't own anything, but you control everything. So even if somebody sues you and they win, they cannot get any of your assets. And the one thing I learned, I turned 60 years old this year, and I'm still learning every day. But
Yeah.
one of the things that I learned in the last 2 years was that an LLC does not protect you the way that you think. If you don't have 35 members in your LLC, it's the matter of a judge flipping a coin to decide if he's going to let that person who's suing you get to everything that you own.
Wait,
So,
wait, wait. Hold on. Hold on. Wait a minute. Because I hear this all over social media,
uh-huh.
all over everywhere. Get an LLC, put your real estate in an LLC. Just go ahead, formulate an LLC, and now you're protected. You don't need a trust. You don't need this and that. Just do an LLC or create an LLC and then put your LLC into a trust. So what I'm hearing is for anybody who's creating a single member LLC, they still have that exposure, that litigious exposure, if somebody should decide. So you're saying that's penetrable.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And
Wow.
I was irritated because all the years in my life, I thought, oh, you have an LLC, you're protected. And it's not. In
And
fact, there's kind of a joke going out there that LLC stands for large lawsuit coming.
oh shoot. What do you mean by that? Wait a minute. What do you mean by that? That is not good. We don't like that. What do you mean?
Yeah, it's just because you're not protected. And if people tell us that we are protected and come to find out that we are not protected. And life insurance companies, so many times I talk to somebody, oh, well, I have an umbrella policy. You know what? We want you to keep that umbrella policy because if somebody does sue you, the insurance on that umbrella policy will pay them something, but they'll never get anything more than the insurance company pays. But I was told a couple different times, when you're at fault, the insurance company doesn't cover you completely. I had somebody who was in a car accident. It was her fault, and the insurance company wouldn't cover it all. Now, luckily, I mean, it was $10,000 collection that she ended up on her credit report from her insurance company because she couldn't afford to pay it, but they don't cover it all. So make sure you check with your insurance company to see what they really do cover if you are at fault.
Wow. 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 You're dropping so much gold here. Hold on. I gotta rewind a little bit if I could. I
Yes.
apologize. Let's go back if we could revisit the LLC. So what brought your awareness to this gap? I'm going to call it a blind spot
Yeah.
because I see LLCs touted everywhere. If you go on YouTube and you enter in LLC or single member LLC, you're going to receive a plethora, a cornucopia of YouTube's recommending create an LLC. I will help you create an LLC, establish your LLC this way. So
Yeah,
what brought your
that's what we were
awareness
taught.
to this? Yeah, what brought your awareness to this blind spot?
The advisors and the attorneys that I'm partnered with have really opened up some doors that I never knew were there. And I think it's very unfair that people on the internet are sticking to these products that, yeah, they're going to help you to a certain point, but they're not protecting you like they think they are. You want to make sure that you're covered. And an LLC, unfortunately, is not going to do that, even if you have a Wyoming LLC. Now, how do I know these things? I've bought them, right? I bought that bad trust that didn't work. And my CPA says, I'm not reporting that, because CPAs, when they report, there's some liability if they report something that they know is wrong. So they'll tell you, I'm not filing your tax return with that. Right. That's how I learned the bad one, the in perpetuity one, right? And now I'm connected to the advisors and the attorneys with the trust that we put out. They're put out by attorneys, not just somebody that's marketing them and sending them out. These are reviewed by attorneys, and you have an attorney backing you. If the IRS or a lawsuit came up, you've got an attorney there.
That is so huge. And that's why I talk about the 4-pillar professionals. So many business owners, entrepreneurs, self-employed, we're talking about people with corporations and millions of dollars, do not have a tax attorney in their team of professionals. And I just think that's a huge mistake. Listen, if you're working so hard to accumulate this wealth, start establishing those relationships now. And a good professional is going to have an established team. I work with an established team of professionals who have vetted these strategies, because in many instances, you're going to need those white papers. You're going to need somebody who is going to stand behind the work that was done and could really, in the worst case scenario, go through that court process for you. And so that you're not just simply trading one exposure for another. So I love that you said that. So
yeah, and I've been audited by the IRS for promoting the one strategy I talked to you about, tax deferred cash out. I was audited about 2.5 years ago, and I explained to the IRS why, I was talking about it and why it worked. And I said it basically worked better than 1031, because somebody that does a 1031 and they die, the IRS gets no taxes. And that particular strategy, 30 years down the road, the tax bill was due. It was due by the heirs, right? The estate. Right. And by the time I walked out of that audit, they asked me, are you going to keep talking about it? And I said, yes. And they said, okay. So what you have to understand about the IRS is the people they hire do not know the tax code. They do not know the laws. 99% of the time, you're educating them. So don't let them bully you. You know that if you're using a strategy and you understand it, and it's, you talk to your tax people, right? And they say yes, that there's code that backs up what you did. So don't let some auditor that maybe has a chump complex, right, so he can say that he wins all these cases. Don't take it. Appeal and really fight for your right, because the strategies that we do are within the codes, and they are legal in the codes. And the attorneys that I use, that I work with, I partner with, and the advisors, they all know this. And one of the CPAs that we use gives, audit protection. So these people are ready to fight for you.
I love that. And I hate to belabor the point of the LLC, but I hear this so often. I have to ask you, what is the purpose then? What is the rationale behind, or what is the benefit of having a single member LLC in your professional opinion? What is the benefit?
Now that I know this, I don't think there's a benefit. The only thing is if you don't want someone to know that you own something, so you put a different name on it. Okay. But so you as an individual are not on it, a name is on it. So they have to go look it up, but we can all look that information up. Right. So I don't really see a benefit. And I was very disappointed, because I've gone through quite a few seminars with the LLCs that I thought that was the way to go. And they even talk about stacking LLCs, and you create an LLC to put a debt on it, so there's no equity in your LLC. So if someone sues you, there's no equity, they can't take anything. And all you're going to end up with is a whole bunch of tax returns you need to file. And in California, what the fee's like $850 to own an LLC. And if you're going to stack one on top of another, that's a lot of money for taxes each year. Using our trust structures, you put everything into one trust, one tax return, and nobody's going to penetrate it. Now,
Wow.
if you owe money to the government or you owe child support,
Right.
you know what I mean? You're not going to get away from that.
Right.
Okay. Those are things you have to take care of. It can't protect you from that. But
Right.
normal creditors or people that just want to go out and sue you, you have to be careful with that.
Yeah. And that's where we go back to. We're not talking about tax evasion, anything
No.
unethical, illegal, immoral. We don't flirt with any of the gray areas. These are tried and true, vetted strategies that have been working for many, many generations. So that's great. Thank you for sharing that, because I do see that LLC so often. So then let's kind of unpack. You hit on something here, which is the trust. So I see people who spend thousands of dollars, they create a trust. However, the trust still is in their name. For example,
It's a
if it's
living trust.
Betty and Bob, then it's a
Mhm.
living trust. Betty and Bob are still in their living trust. So if is how do you structure those trusts?
Well, the living trust is good. It keeps you out of probate. If somebody were to die, it keeps your family from having to go to the courts to figure out what you get and what, your brothers or sisters get or whoever, right? But that's a lot of money. That probate is quite expensive.
Right.
So the living trust also does not help you with your taxes, and it doesn't
Right.
give you any asset protection. So the trusts I'm talking about, they're non-grantor, complex dynasty trusts. They are trusts where, here in California, if your parents put the property in these type of trusts, they carry on to the family. It is generational trust. You can move it on to the next generation, right? The trust has to be renewed every 21 years. But here in California, if a parent dies and the child does not want to move back into their childhood home, the state of California will reassess that property. And now you have a large property tax bill. And most of the time, the children, they don't want to move there, but they don't want to lose it. They want to use it as a rental. But now that the property taxes have been reassessed, they can't afford to keep it. Well, if the parents put their properties into these type of non-grantor trusts, then the trust owns it and the trust doesn't die. So if the parent dies, the children move up and now own the trust that owns that property. So you won't get that increase of property taxes. It's just the things that parents need to hear about, right? And absolutely, you do not want to put your children on title to your property to make sure that they get it, because if you put your children on title before you die, you have given them your tax bill.
That's right.
You have to wait till you pass away. Then the children get step up in basis. And then if they sell the property, there's no tax bill.
Oh
You
my gosh.
want to keep
This
the
this is
property
a
tax crazy.
I'm so sorry. This is a gold bar. I get this question almost every week, if not every day. Oh, Leah, can I just simply put my child's name, my adult children's name on the property and just start putting their assets, just giving them to them before I pass away? So rewind that again. I'm so sorry for interrupting you and slowing you down, but that is something that I
No,
think is so overlooked. First, I think there might be somebody
don't
actually
do
teaching
it.
this strategy. I hear this all the time. So unpack that a little bit more. Give us a
Yeah.
story about that.
Well, I get calls constantly that, my mother passed away
Right.
and she owned an apartment complex, or, well, it's the primary residence. That's really the main one. But if the child wants to keep the home that they grew up in, the home that is very special to them, and their parents and their family was there and they had their Christmases, they want to keep this home. But if the child doesn't move into it and make it their primary residence, then the state of California will reassess the property tax. So in my case, my parents bought the home in Milpitas, for $17,000, right? Their tax bill was $600 a year. Okay. So if I didn't move into their house, then the tax bill, the house sold for 600,000, I would have been paying taxes on a $600,000 sale. So using these trusts is a great planning tool. So if parents get these properties into their trusts, then when their children acquire them, there's no property tax assessment because the trust doesn't die. It's in the name of the trust. So it's a really important planning tool for parents and children.
Yeah. Two questions. What is the exposure to putting assets in your adult child's name while you're still living? Let's just say I have a home I bought for 23,000 and now it's worth 2.7 million dollars and I don't want my child to have to go through probate. So I'm just going to simply put my adult son's name on the real estate. What is the potential ramifications from that?
Yeah. If you do that, you're giving your child the tax bill, your same capital gains tax bill, because they're going to have to pay the gains from the 23,000 to the 2.3 million. You're giving them a huge bill if they sell that property. If you wait and have them acquire the property upon your death, then they're going to acquire it at $2.3 million. So if they sell it, there's no taxable event. So if they acquired it 2.3 million, and let's say they hold on to the property for a few years and now it's worth 3 million, they're only going to pay the gain from the 2.3 million to the 3 million, not back from 23,000 when their parents bought it.
Yeah, yeah, that's so huge. Also, the attorneys that I work with also talk about the exposure that you're putting your assets into, potential exposure from anything that your adult child may be
Yeah.
involved with or become involved with. If they get a fender bender or they accidentally do something and now they're found in litigation, your asset is now exposed. Any of
Yep.
their creditors, predators, any of those things is exposing your asset because their name is now on the deed. That's what I've heard also.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely responsible because now you gave your adult child an asset that could be taken away.
Right,
So if something does happen, they get in a car accident, or, it happens to a lot of people I know, they get a DUI, right? And something happens. And now you can have your home taken away because of what your child did. Of course, they're
right,
not doing it on purpose, but
right,
life happens. So
right.
when life happens, the last person you want to hurt is your parent and have them lose their home over something you did.
Yeah, that's so, so good. So unpack this a little bit more of somebody, a non-guarantor dynasty trust. I mean, is that probably not for somebody who owns a home that's worth of 500,000 or something like that?
It's for
What
everybody.
it would be for anybody.
It's for anybody. The whole, the rule to um the building your estate, right? It's what you keep. Like Leah said, it's not what you sell for, it's how much you keep. Well, you don't want to build up this nice nest egg and then lose it over something. So it's all about keeping everything that you built and don't allow anybody to touch it.
Wow.
Back to those frivolous lawsuits. We had a client, he's one of our trust clients, and he was in a panic because he rented out one of his homes, and the tenant broke the lease without our client knowing about it, but he subleased it. Okay, you weren't supposed to sublease, but he subleased it. He
Wow.
subleased it to somebody who was handicapped. That handicapped person got upset and sued our client because that home was not fit for a handicapped person.
Right.
It should have never been rented to a handicapped person. So now
Right.
our client is in the middle of a lawsuit with the handicapped person because it got rented to him, which, who cares how you get there? You're still in court trying to say, I didn't do this and this person was not supposed to do this. It's still costing you money.
Right.
So when life happens and
Yeah.
you get sued and you have this trust, it's almost a feeling of, it's okay because they're not going to touch what I have. You know what I
Wow.
mean? Go ahead and sue me because you're not going to get what I own. And
Wow.
that's the part that is so powerful.
That's a big, big deal. And what that brings to mind is business owners. I help a lot of contractors who have a lot of exposure, right? Because they're out there, they're physically out there, but also could be as somebody who owns a Subway sandwich shop, and that's more of a hands off, or even a real estate investor. So,
Mhm.
somebody like that, if they have just a basic living trust, they still have that exposure, is what I'm hearing.
Yes, you still have that exposure. And
Wow.
we are out there trying to educate people to get these trusts. Yes, they're pricey. We have a lower price one and we have a higher price one, but we want to get you protected. And we always work with everybody in their, they can make payments, right? We want to get you protected. So just know that there are a lot of lawsuits. There was one in a restaurant, just since you brought up a restaurant, but a lady slipped on some soda that was on the floor and fell and broke her tailbone. She
Wow.
sued the restaurant owner and won. Even she still won when the jury still knew that 5 minutes before she slipped on that soda, she got in a fight with her boyfriend, threw the soda at him, and that's the soda she slipped on. She still won the lawsuit.
Wow.
It's crazy, right? So you've got to be protected.
Wow. That's so, so big. That just makes me feel like every business owner needs to talk to you.
Every business owner. And
Every business owner.
we didn't even get into the beautiful things about the trust with business owners. We can help eliminate a portion of your income tax bill using the trust also. And there's different things. And since we're talking about business owners, because I'm a business owner and I have this, and I was
Me
so
too.
excited to
Yeah.
be able to figure out how to get rid of some of that tax bill. It kills me to write that tax bill to the IRS. We're struggling, right? We're struggling to keep our businesses going. And when we have to give so much of it to the IRS, that's money we need to do marketing and pay our employees and everything else that we have to do.
Right.
Well, we have what's called an intellectual property trust. And what that means is that intellectual property is your brain, right? So you can sell your intellectual property. Now, the IRS says your intellectual property has no value till you sell it. But if you sell your intellectual property, your brain, to your non grantor trust, now it's an asset. So in my case, I sold my intellectual property to my trust, and now my two companies, I license my brain to them. So the two companies have to take 5% off the top of the gross earnings and pay my trust. Now, my trust, I can get money out of that by getting trustees' fees or whatever I need to do. I can pay my mortgage out of the trust. We can get into that. It would take forever. But the beautiful thing is 5% automatically goes to the trust. That's 5% less in income tax. Then my business trust manages my two companies that are C Corps and an LLC. And so I take 10% off the top of my companies to pay my business trust to manage my businesses. So that's 15% off the top. I'm not paying
Wow.
tax on just by using these
Wow.
trusts. And then the trusts come with the foundation. And when you take the income, you figure out what you're going to have left. You can donate that to your own private family foundation and you can eliminate your tax bill legally. We don't
Oh,
ever suggest for you to eliminate it, but we can have conversations on what you should be paying to the IRS and what you don't have to pay to the IRS.
and again, we're not talking about anything illegal, immoral, or unethical. And I'm pretty sure by now you can see that Ruth knows this inside out. She just dropped a ton of golden nuggets, a ton of golden bars. This is mic drop over here. And even if you didn't understand all of what she said, understand that she does. And it's about what? It's about keeping more legally, morally, and ethically in your pocket and just not overpaying your fair share of
Right.
taxes. You touched on something that I absolutely was a perfect segue because we only have a few more minutes and I
Yes.
did want you to share something about this. What about people who don't want to leave assets to their children, to their heirs, or they really have a heart to leave significant assets to charities, nonprofit, maybe create their own foundations? What kinds of strategies are available? And give us a story, if you will, for somebody in that realm.
Well, we did have a client that liked to give 500,000 or more to their foundations, their 501c3s that they cared about. And so using the trust structures, the non-grantor trust, it's a complex trust, is the only entity that can give unlimited charitable contributions and get 100% write off. You as an individual cannot do it. You're limited to 30 to 60% of your adjusted gross income. Your corporations and LLC, same thing. You have limitations. These trusts are the only product that allows you to give unlimited. So if you're a good charity, you like to give to charity, you maybe don't have family in that, the trust is a good way to eliminate your tax bill and give to those charities that you want to give to. And there's a few different ways, different structures. You can always use charitable remainder trust, but we have a charitable holding company that allows you to sell your asset, partner with a charity. You give them 99% of the LLC that's created. The charity doesn't touch any of your money while you're alive, okay? Or ever, actually. And so this LLC is created, and the charity owns 99%, so you eliminate 99% of the tax bill, and you own 1%, but you have all of the control over the funds. So it goes to your family. The money, when you pass away, your family gets everything that you built, but there is a life insurance product that is put on you, or if you're not insurable, a spouse or a child or a grandchild. And that life insurance policy is what pays the charity their portion. So your family can reap the rewards of everything you've built, and you get to use the money in any way that you want to. Plus, the charity gets the donation at the end. And so, we had a client that sold his business for $2.8 million, but 2.3 of it was appreciated assets.
Right.
And it was just a real struggle for him. So he used this particular strategy and was able to help out a pregnancy center. And he only ended up paying taxes on 28,000 instead of 2.8 million.
That's beautiful, because a lot of people accumulate this wealth and they want to leave a portion maybe to their heirs, to their children, but they have things that are near and dear to their heart. Not only that they want to donate to, but maybe that they want to create. Maybe they want to honor somebody in their family. Maybe, they have some history in their family of somebody who is did go through something like a battered woman. They want to create their own shelter, or somebody who did have some physical limitations and they want to be able to honor them in some way. So I absolutely love that. That is so huge. And I think about it this way. This is the way I explain strategies, advanced strategies, to my clients. I say, you know what? You're working so hard. It's like a little rosy cheek apple seed. And you get this little rosy cheek apple seed and you find a perfect place in your yard, and you plant that apple seed and you cultivate the soil and you fertilize it, you water it, you give it all the sunshine and everything that it needs. And that tree grows into a beautiful, fruitful rosy cheek apple tree. And anytime you want a rosy cheek apple, you just go in your backyard and you pluck a rosy cheek apple off of the tree. And then you leave it to your children and your heirs. And guess what they do? A lot of people say, well, they pick an apple or they chop down the tree. And I say, I wish they would. Do you know what they really do? They go in the backyard, they sharpen the axe, they chop down the tree, they use the wood in their fireplace, they burn the tree, they pick the apple, they eat the apple, and they throw away the seeds. It's about keeping what? The tree together. It's about keeping the assets together. That's truly, and teaching your family the rules and regulations to pick that rosy cheek apple off of the tree. You can set the guidelines of when they receive the wealth, and you can set the rules, things that they must do, things that they cannot do in order to pick that apple from that rosy cheek apple tree.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we truly create not just wealth, but generational and multi generational wealth for many generations. That's why the Rockefellers have been wealthy for 7, 8, 9 generations. It's because they protect the tree. It's always about protecting the tree. So we're winding down here, Ruth. You've shared a ton of information. I mean, if you haven't seen by now, Ruth is really that strategist you need in your back pocket, even if you don't own assets right now currently. If your intention is to accumulate this wealth, if you know somebody you're going to be inheriting wealth from somebody, please reach out to Ruth. She is warm, inviting, friendly, just like you see her right now. This is the way she always is. She doesn't know how to be any other way. And she will help you to at least get some exposure and start the conversations about what this might look like for you and your family. So, in closing, Ruth, in closing, tell us, like, what is your reason why? Why do you do this? What is, this is a lot of work. It's constant studying, researching. Really quick, what is your why?
My why is because I have always struggled with the IRS. For some reason, the tax bills just keep getting higher and higher every year. And, you're constantly dealing with them. And then a lot of times, I had one business that was a credit repair business, and they said that I owed them more tax than I ever made in a year. And you're just constantly fighting with them, right? And my goal is to, yeah, absolutely pay your tax, but don't overpay and don't bow down to the IRS when they're wrong. And
Right.
it just feels like a constant battle. And, it's kind of funny because my license plate on my car says pay no tax. Two of our cars have pay no tax. And then it has our phone number and capital gains around the license plate frame. But, it's just, let's just pay our fair share. And
Yeah.
so many times, we won't get political in that, but the way they spend the money is not how we want the money spent.
Right.
And so why don't we give it to charities that we care about and causes that we care about instead of giving it to the government that they make the decision on where it goes?
Absolutely. I love that. So how can people reach you? What do you have on the horizon? Where can people get more information?
Our website is deferthegainstax.com. And we're Financial Tax Strategies is our company name. Defer the Gains Tax is our website. We do have a YouTube channel. We have videos to explain everything that I talk about. I have separate videos for each strategy. Now, I want to tell you that not all the strategies are on my website. Why is that? I'm in the IRS's radar. Why am I going to fuel the fire? I'm going to tell you about it. We're going to talk to your advisors about it, but I don't want to put everything out there on a silver platter to them. So, they do know about me, and I just don't want them watching my website for the different things that come up.
Yeah. And really quick, I just want to give a shout out to some of our listeners and watchers. My little brother, Lance Furuyama, he's got an amazing channel, does a lot of great information for contractors and anyone in the contracting space. And we've got a LinkedIn user. I'm not sure who you are. If you want to type your name in the chat, it says great learning. I appreciate that so much. Well, this has been a wealth of information. This is one for sure for people to watch, go back, relearn. And really, like I said, all of this advanced planning really requires those 4 pillar professionals. You truly need a CPA that is vetted, that understands these strategies, how to cross the T's and dot the I's. You need your tax attorney, because the worst time to start looking for a tax attorney is when you actually need one, right? You need that estate planning attorney. And also you need your licensed, trained, and certified life and health insurance agent. Those fellow professionals will work together to strategize, because it's not about a one size fits all silver bullet. It's really about creating layers of protection to do the things that you intended to do, your desires, your rationale behind creating the wealth and transferring that wealth properly, right? It's about protecting, distributing, and transferring that wealth to create generational and multi-generational wealth for generations. Well, that's it for us. My name is Leah Garcia, financial professional. Please reach out to me on all the social platforms. You can find me, Leah Garcia, CEO. You can also find me now on YouTube, The Wall of Wealth, and pick up my free ebook, The Wall of Wealth. Send me an email, send me a message, and I'd be happy to send out my free ebook to you, The Wall of Wealth, which is a one-page financial plan, a simple one-page financial plan that you can follow so that you can establish your wall of wealth and create that generational wealth for you. Thank you so much. And we'll see you all at the top, because we all know it's way too crowded at the bottom. It's just way too crowded down there. Ruth, I'm so gather yourself.
Yes.
I hope you'll be okay. Thank you so much, everyone. Talk to you soon.